Hi folks, it's Robin here at Toadstool Tarot. This is it. It's finally arrived. The Blushing Fool. I've been hearing about this deck for some time, and a lot of people just sort of refer to it as kind of the holy grail of Rider-Waite-Smith decks, and I wondered why. So I thought, well, I guess I better try to get my hands on one and see what all the fuss is about. After I walk through it and talk about it, I have, probably at least 10 other RWS decks to show and compare. This one comes in a sturdy blue box. It just says tarot cards on the front. On the bottom end, it says, if I can see, Rider and Company London, complete set of 78 cards, first published in 1910. And then on the other end, it says first edition 1910, reprinted many times to 1939, second edition 1971. On the side, it says Rider and Company, 3 Fitzroy Square, London, Waddington Playing Card Company. Here it says printed for Rider and Company, London by A.G. Mueller. It's just a simple box. Mine had a little scribbling on the back of it. It's kind of worn, but, you know, it's not cracked or broken. Pretty good for a deck from 1972. And inside the box comes the deck sandwiched between 2 extra cards. I think somebody mentioned that they printed these in sheets, and with 78 cards, it left 2 cards left over. So they just cut them out and included them in the box. Or I suppose, you know, if you ever lost a card, you could use one as a replacement. I don't know. Here's a little white book, the standard little white book. This one's yellowed with age. Let me turn off my headlamp here. I don't think we need that extra light. This one says, this edition 1972. So I don't know, the edition of the booklet is 72, but I think the box says 71. I'm not sure about the discrepancy there. The cards are standard size. I never much cared for the blue plaid back on the decks that they've continued to this day in the many reprints. I actually prefer the crackleback design, but I've kind of gotten used to this over time. Don't mind it as much as I used to. Now, everybody's been going on and on telling me about the card stock, and it really is a nice card stock. Most of the ones these days have a sheen or a semi-gloss. This is matte, but it's not a kind of a dry, rough matte. It's very smooth and sleek. Very nice feel. The deck is a nice weight, nice thickness. These are standard size tarot cards. I don't know about the weight. They feel okay to me. I don't know if some consider this thin or not, but it feels right to me. Let's see, I don't know if I turn on the extra light, whether that's a help or a hindrance in terms of getting a sense of what the card stock looks like. And these are called the Blushing Fool, apparently because of a printing error that I'm not sure if the camera's picking up. If you can see really close on the face here, there is, I wouldn't exactly say he was blushing. In order to get the red on the face, the way they applied the ink overlay, it also almost has more of a freckled or a measly look than a blush to it, I think. But anyway, they call it the Blushing Fool. Now, the thing I noticed about this deck is not only in my copy, but I've seen another walkthrough just today even, that these cards are printed misaligned. And I don't know if that's true all the way through the run or not, but you can see they're off centered to the left. The borders are thicker on the right than the left. It doesn't bother me, oddly enough. These don't have copyrights on them. They're pre-copyright. They use Pamela Coleman Smith's font. These are big deals to some people. The detail in the line work is very sharp, very good. The coloring is really nice. There were several cards in the deck that stood out to me. There are elements that jumped out that I hadn't noticed before, and I'll tell you when we get there. They're in the Pentacle suit. The blues and the High Priestess seem rather bright. I think I'm really going to enjoy using these. For me, a lot of times the issues are, well, the cards have to feel right for shuffling. The colors have to be nice. They have to appeal to me. But most important is the sharpness of the line work. And these are very sharp. Now here we have a fool with a blush on his cheeks, and I would consider that a blush, not so much like we see on the cheeks of the fool. I'll go through these fairly quickly because I'm sure you've seen them all a bunch of times. I can't tell if the use of my headlamp as a supplement is helping to highlight details or washing them out. Seems to me like the colors in the background are very flatly applied, and even in these broad areas of color, it's flat. There's no modeling of the color, but that's fine for me. I think it actually makes the textured areas stand out more. I don't know, I can't remember if I mentioned on the box, someone said that one of the things that distinguishes this as a Blushing Fool is that the wreath on the box has a more olive colored green. I may have said that already, I don't know. I'm glad I managed to get a copy of this. There are only a couple of cards that have some soiling on them. And it's not too bad. It's a little bit of a sunburn on this figure, or blush, if you want to call it that. Oh, I wanted to check something. I noticed in the Radiant Y Spirit deck that the Three of Wands, which is my personal significator card, the one I choose for myself, the one I identify with the most, that the figure is barefoot. And in all the other editions, it's not as clear. It looks like he may have on red or orange or brown footwear. Can't quite tell from this. If they are barefoot, they're very, very dark. But in that particular deck, you'll notice he's barefoot. I think previous to now, the Centennial, Smith-Waite Centennial edition was more or less my go-to. I think this is going to be my new one. I recently got a regular size Centennial. I previously only had the one in a tin. And the edges of the cards on that one feel punched out and sharp. These feel nice. They don't cut my fingers. And the colors are better on this deck. The image is sharper. All in all, I think I agree. This is probably the best one I've seen. Some of these blues, I'm not sure. Like I said, the High Priestess and this blue seem pretty rich, a little bit dark, but I don't find them disturbing. They work for me. A lot of people have issues in the various decks with the yellows being too harsh or too bright. The yellows look pretty good in this one, I think. Let's see here. This is one that has an issue that's often pointed out about the belly being unfinished under the horse. There's an unconnected portion there of the saddle, which is true here. And I can't tell if that's a little misprint of ink or if that's just dirt on my copy. Oh, here's one of my stains. You can tell if it's a burnt mark or a tea stain or what. Doesn't really bother me. Not bad, actually. It's just in the border. page is pretty tanned. I like the texture in the clouds here and in the earth. I don't know if that's as noticeable in other versions. I've been through these cards in various decks so many times. These are things that are jumping out at me now that I'm not sure if I've noticed before or not. I've also not noticed the detail in this horse's bridle, or whatever you call that. Some birds on there and some butterflies. I don't think I ever noticed. That's the funny thing about this deck. No matter how many versions of it or how many times you've handled it, it seems like there's always some new symbol or some new element that pops to the foreground that you might have overlooked previously. There's some really nice shading in the robe here. Very subtle. And in the clouds. Okay, now here's one of the things that I noticed in this deck. See if I can bring this to your attention. I noticed on the bench here, there's a stain, like 2 footprints that I hadn't noticed before in other decks. In fact, the bench looks pink with sort of orangey brown footprints. Also, on this figure here in the robe, you get a definite distinction between the orange front and the sort of purpley pink back. Those elements really stood out for me in this card. Jumped out at me. I hadn't seen them or noticed them before. And this is the other card. Usually, this is a very confusing card. There's so much going on in it, you don't get all the detail and definition. This one I do. And I also noticed in this one a couple of things. There's an almost kind of a tie-dye coloring in the head garment on this figure that goes from pink to a grayish purple to blue, and also in their sock. I think there's a little bit in the hood here too. This is another card. There's a couple cards in the deck. I guess, you know, the 5 of Pentacles. This one is also a very busy card, but you can clearly see all the elements in it, which is great, you know. That's always a concern if you're missing elements. This is another one that's usually difficult. You can't always, a lot of times the rabbit almost blends in with the earth here. And it's fairly clear in this version. As is the King of Pentacles. His robe is so laden with details, with the grape arbors and so forth, that it often blends in kind of with the background, and this one's pretty clear. So all in all, I'm very happy with this this deck. I'm glad to have it. It's definitely worth having. I want to thank my friend Melissa Zupan, who looked out for me, and because I've been looking for a while, but I don't quite know what to look for, and I've worried that I'd be buying something that wasn't a Blushing Fool. that I'd be spending a lot of money on something that turned out to be the wrong thing. And I was on my way back from the grocery a couple weeks ago, and she sent me a text and said, "Oh, you're still looking for a blushing fool? I saw one listed on eBay," and she sent me the link. So I bid on it, and I got it. Or I think it was a buy outright one. I guess it's a little bit higher than some might pay. It was $98, and with the tax and shipping and everything, it came to about $120, but which is a little high for me, but I'm just glad to have it as an investment. And I have spent more on decks before. Oh, I should keep the Fool card out because I want to do a little comparison with some of these other decks. I have here now 10 other versions of, oh, sorry, I grabbed the Magician. Where did my Fool go? There he is. So you can see as I go through, there's various colorations of these cards. The first one is a, I don't know that you could get this anymore. They took it off the market pretty quickly. I think somebody complained. It's kind of a linen finish, and I refer to this sort of as the sunburnt deck. Don't care much for the back design. I do actually like the sort of tan colors. It's a very Florida, overly tanned or tanning bed kind of deck. Nice box. Too bad they couldn't have used this on the back. This one's just called Tarot Deck with original artwork by Pamela Coleman Smith. By the way, I have walkthroughs of all of these decks on my channel, just in case you're interested. This is one of the darker colorings, but I'm really quite taken by it. Although some of the backgrounds, the sky, you can see sort of white elements in the yellows or oranges. Some might find that disturbing. It looks almost like they ran out of ink or it was a misprint, but it doesn't bother me too much. I actually like the coloring. You notice here in these two that the facial expressions are different, as well as the coloring. The legs look a little fatter in this one too. This one is from the original tarot by Siren Publishing, which is, sometimes it goes as is considered the Siren Imports deck. It also has Dabrai on it. It's made in China, so I don't know how you refer to this as the Dabrai deck or the Siren Imports deck. This is the one I believe Jen Rodriguez has been using in the Sunday tarot play dates, where we study the cards each Sunday afternoon, one card at a time, and this is the one she uses. It has a linen finish. I'm not as fond of some of the coloring. Some of the blues have a kind of a gray tint to them, and some of the reds are more, I don't know how to describe the red. More of a kind of a blood red or orangey. I don't know. They're very flat but intense. Next one is the Smith-Waite Centennial. This is the one that most people find a favorite to use. It does have the copyright on it. It's pretty good in the detail. You can see a definite difference, though, between it and the Blushing Fool. It's a little darker. You don't get the blush on the face, but, you know, that's actually okay with me. The colors are better here. They're a little brighter in the Blushing Fool. A little darker blue here. The skies and backgrounds tend to be a little more mottled and aged looking. They're less stark white than the Blushing Fool. They're a little more yellowed with age, artificially yellowed. The line work looks pretty much the same, even though the coloring's a little different. Just for comparison here, I'm going to pull up this one from below. This is the study deck you can get at McPlayingCards.com. Oh, by the way, here's the back on the Blushing Fool. That's the back on the Smith-Waite Centennial. And that's the box for the Smith-Waite Centennial. And this is the crackleback design on the study deck. And I don't know if you can see the art is a little darker, I think, on the study deck. It has even more of a kind of a yellowed, aged look to the borders. And the yellow is almost a chalkier or dustier yellow. It's a nice deck. The skin tones are a little more red, a little more burnt. But I find the artwork to be a little too dark, and the line work not quite as sharp as I would prefer, though some people really like this deck. Next one we have, this is the 1909, it's called the 1909 Art Restoration deck. This one has a Roses and Lilies back. The cardstock's a little bit thinner. The yellow is a little mottled, kind of washed out a little bit. The line work is pretty similar, not quite as dark as these other two. Then we have over here the Tarot of A.E. Waite from AGM Urania. And this used to be a favorite. It has a really nice slick feel to it. The cards have more of a sheen. They're a bit glossier than some of the others. Although it's not a high gloss, they do have the crackle backs on this particular one. Doesn't have Pixies font, but also doesn't have the copyright that we get on the Centennial, unfortunately. The detailing is pretty good. Then we have over here the Radiant Wise Spirit. This is one that has particularly unusual coloring. This is from Lo Scarabeo. And this one has a Roses and Lilies back in red. It's very glossy. Also, you'll notice in comparison to the Blushing Fool, look at the difference in the artwork. I know people like the atmospheric coloring in this one, but look how much fatter the figure looks. The legs look chunkier. The robe looks stretched out wider. The face looks even, the jawline and neckline look wider and more drawn out. It's much more exaggerated than all the other depictions that I have here and examples. The coloring is moody and interesting, but you don't have Pixies font. So I don't know. A lot of people like this deck. I like the deck. It has a couple of issues on a couple of cards that sort of bother me, but I do like the atmospheric coloring. Then we have a couple more. These last three are coloration alternatives. This one's from MakePlayingCards.com. Sorry, I'm juggling my camera a bit here, and I can't quite tell if you all are seeing what I need you to see as I'm shifting things around. This is called the WS2 Tarot. It's at MakePlayingCards.com. These have black borders and a very nice atmospheric coloring. They're a little bit similar to the Radiant Wise Spirit in atmosphere. I like the black borders. You might notice here that there's no detailing of the flowers on the tunic. They're just red circles, not yellow with red flowers in them. And the boots are brown instead of yellow. So yeah, there's some coloration changes. Then we have my favorite, or my previous favorite, we'll see. This one I still like very much. I like very much the feel of these. They're very satiny. This is the RWS 2.0 from James Rickleff. It does have his copyright on the side. I do like the way these bleed off the edge of the card. I haven't trimmed the borders off because of that, even though the copyright is less than desirable, but I've learned to live with it. Also, a lot of people don't like that he didn't use Pixies font. That doesn't bother me too much. I like the sort of three-dimensional and atmospheric coloration. That these legs have a bit of a gradation in the color that give them a little more dimension. And in the clouds and or mountains rather than the background, you get a kind of a gradation. And there's a lot of details like that in the deck that I really like. This card is less dramatic in some of the coloring than some of the other cards in the deck, but this is a favorite. Oh, that's the back, by the way. I'm not crazy about the back, but... So, at the moment, these are my two favorites. Lastly, another very popular deck with our crowd is the CS Tarot, designed by Conrad Stain, where he has crackelated? What's the word? He's texturized the backgrounds of these. And it's not the same in each card. It varies. Some look like chipped paint, some look crackled, some look like plaster, some look more like stucco almost, but there's an aged effect in the background. Many of you are familiar with this. I like the edges of the cards, and they do have a crackleback design on the back. This particular one is black, or should say charcoal gray, and I believe he has a sort of a honey and a kind of a burnt orange option. So there you have it. There's quite a few variations on the RWS, and I've only showed you the fools, but we'd be here till doomsday if I showed you every card in all 10 of these decks. And I think I actually have a couple more too. I have the Universal Weight and the Radiant Rider Weight, and I may have even others that I'm not thinking of at the moment around here. Not sure. So as you can see, there are many, many, many variations on this deck, but I'm very happy to finally have a Blushing Fool in my collection now, and I will treasure this. Personally, after all the hype, I don't see the attraction in the pigmentation on the face, but I do like the cardstock, the clarity of the line, the overall coloring. So I'm very happy with this. The Liftoff box. I believe there are also Blushing Fools in yellow boxes from the US. I don't have one of those, but I'm happy with this one from the UK in the blue box. So anyway, now let me get all these cards back in their proper boxes and back on the shelf. And thanks for stopping by and having a look-see with me. And if you're on the search for these, keep an eye out on eBay. They do pop up from time to time. And I wish you each luck in securing your own copy. See y'all next time. Bye.